the sounds of all that. And I was listening to the most well-known Toronto sports station, and they had their DraftKings Superbowl, and then the first move the host made was, I'm on tails at plus 100. And I could not believe my ears. Yes. I could not. I was like, what? I just, the irresponsibility of that being your first angle to talk about. I was just beside myself and immediately turned it off.
Yeah, you're out.
This football game and sports gambling, it's supposed to be fun. And I understand that, but it means too much to me. And there's so many mistakes that are made on Super Bowl. And one is getting out of your comfort zone with the size of your bets. I'm not doing that. And it took me a long time to figure out exactly how I was going to do that. And I will explain that at the end of this segment, exactly how I'm going to bet it, as you mentioned here. But let's start with just the setup of this football game. We have 8 minutes till traffic. That's more than enough time for us to lock this down. So we're in State Farm Stadium, Glendale, Arizona, Chiefs, Eagles. This line has had some movement, not a ton of movement, but it's had some movement. And it was that the Eagles were probably opened at too big of a favorite at -2 or -2.5, depending on where you shop. It's now -1 at -112. The money line is generally around -125, but it opened at -135. There were even some -140s, which was probably made Philadelphia too big of a favorite. This total opened up at 49.5. You'll see some books moved it to 51, and even the sharpest ones did. The sharpest books right now have it at 50.5, slightly juiced to the over, but you'll find a lot of 51s out there. We have 500,094 tickets broken down here at the site I use. 59% of the tickets are on the Eagles and 60% of the cash. And then 56% of the tickets and 62% of the cash are on the over. There's a lot of people who are going to want to make, real fun bets, prop bets. And this when you track all of your action to find what you succeed at, when I start getting cute in the Super Bowl, and I stopped doing it at the Eagles Patriots Super Bowl. I just stopped. I was like, this matters too much to me and to my life for me to be sitting here with 8 or 9 prop bets. And as much as content is so crucial, it's not as important as me winning, which I've done beautifully here on your show in back-to-back seasons. I'm up 20 units this year for me in NFL, 107 and 78, 57.8%. My ROI this year in NFL was plus 11.05%. I mean, now we're talking. Now we're talking. For me, I'm making one bet in the Super Bowl. I'm putting 2.5 units on this bet, and I will have 3 units ready to live bet if I can get in a better situation on the bet that I'm making. And that bet is the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's on the money line. I'm not going to mess with the spread. I do think this will be a close game. The Chiefs come in off that 23-20 victory at home over the Bengals, and I really don't see why this game would be that much different. I really don't. Now, what's going to make it different? Well, you go indoors. When you go indoors, it'll speed up the game, and it will also allow for big plays, whether the big plays come on passing plays or they come on special teams. So you can expect easily, a higher scoring game than 23-20. But how much higher scoring? I'm not sure. I think at least another touchdown. I think this total is a very sharp total here, and I don't want to mess with it. In the Chiefs' 23-20 win over the Bengals, their running game was completely shut down. The Chiefs finished with 20 carries for 42 yards. I don't see why this is going to be any different. I do not expect the Chiefs to be able to run, and the Chiefs' passing game is just not as electric as it was in years past. It's still very good, but it's not as electric without Tyreek Hill out there. The Chiefs are a very dangerous special team. and they have a third down conversion rate of when it's 3rd and 10 plus yards to go of 43%. That's one of the wildest stats I've ever heard in my life. The league average is 19. I'm even surprised the league average is 19. And the Chiefs are at 43%. They're a special team, but the Eagles are just a better football team in every single aspect except at quarterback and tight end. And that's enough for me to trust that the Eagles will win the Super Bowl. Defensively, the Chiefs got 5 sacks and 12 quarterback hits against the Bengals. There's not a chance that that's going to happen against the best offensive line in the league. Burrow was sacked 3 times in the first quarter, and the Bengals didn't gain a single yard. That's simply not going to happen in this football game. So the Chiefs aren't going to get the momentum off the top unless something wild happens with special teams. Kansas City finished the year #1 in DVOA offense. Philadelphia was 3rd. The Eagles have a much better defensive numbers over the entire year. If you want to talk about the Chiefs' defensive unit peaking at the right time, that's a fair statement. They are 7th in defensive DVOA since week 16. But even at their peak, they weren't as good as the Philadelphia Eagles defense. The Chiefs defense allows successful plays on 56% of its rush attempts against in the fourth quarter. That's the worst in the NFL. So let's talk about where the Chiefs have an advantage, because I don't see it. The Chiefs defense allows 27 touchdowns in the red zone, the most in the NFL. The Eagles have scored 4.8 points per red zone drive this season. That's 2nd best in the NFL. The Chiefs allow 4.6. That's tied for 3rd worst. The Eagles have scored 40 touchdowns in the red zone this season. The Chiefs have allowed 37. That's the 3rd most in the NFL. The Chiefs allow 4.5 yards per carry and allow the 5th most rushing yards to quarterbacks in the NFL. Well, that's the Eagles' bread and butter. So if you looked at the Eagles' offense against the 49ers and judged it by that, it's a mistake, because after Purdy got hurt, there was simply no cause, no reason for any risk-taking. And they didn't risk. Hurts was 15-25 for 121 yards. But he's 16-1 as a starter. He knows exactly what to do. I've heard people say, if this is a close game, if this is within 3 points, well, then the Chiefs have a genuine advantage. And maybe you can say because their quarterback is better, but their statistics don't call for it. The Eagles have a 3rd down conversion rate of 48.4% in the fourth quarter. That's the 2nd best in the NFL. The Chiefs defense has allowed a 3rd down conversion rate of 46.3% in the fourth quarter. That's the 4th worst. The Eagles defense, 70 sacks this year. The Chiefs were very good at 55. Philadelphia allowed the least passing yards per game in the NFL, the 2nd fewest yards per game, and we're a top 10 scoring defense. Darius Slay and Bradbury are capable of shutting down whoever's lined up across from them. The issue is, what's Kelsey going to do? And you know, Kelsey's very, very dangerous. And then people will say, well, look what Hurts does under pressure. You have to pressure him. 20th in passer rating, 28th in completion rating when pressured. The Philadelphia Eagles, 89.9% pass blocking efficiency is absolutely phenomenal. They allowed 9 quarterback hits. I mean, so when it comes down to it, I expect the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl comfortably. And I have colleagues, the best colleagues that I'm around, the very finest football cappers I'm around, have laddered the Eagles. That's how they're going to get their score. They have the Eagles -1.5, -4.5, -6.5, and -10.5. If one team dominates the other team, it's not going to be the Chiefs. Because what's the worst case scenario for each team? Their quarterback gets hurt. I think the Eagles can still move the ball and still win a Super Bowl if their quarterback got hurt. The Chiefs can't. I am on the Philadelphia Eagles on the money line. I got -125 for 2.5 units. Nothing crazy. And I have 3 units sitting there ready to live bet. And we will be live betting the game all day and night on Pub Sports Radio.
Well, that was a masterclass. And I would suggest if people, whoever they might follow, unless it sounds like what we just heard for the last 8 minutes, then you're listening to the wrong guy. It's that simple. Look, I've done this for a long time, and in a time where you also didn't have online gambling. You certainly didn't in Ontario, but you didn't have it, period. It goes through the back in the bad pro line kind of OLG numbers is how it started. And then there was various guys over the years that used to come on over the last, certainly the last 15 to 20, at least in my estimation, and they never sounded like that. They had stats. It's not like people were terrible, but for the most part, it just wasn't as detailed. And when you listen, and quite frankly, when you're capping, we'll use the word research. And so what you're trying to research and what you just heard was, I need to justify the money I'm going to lay down on the scenario that I just laid out. So I have to go through their garbage. I have to go through everything, how much babies weighed, in order to understand all the elements of the game, not just who you're cheering for and not just cheering for a record. This is a gambling conversation. You're almost trying to talk yourself out of making that bet. You're trying to say, okay, have I overlooked something here where I'm seeing maybe not even a huge advantage, some advantage for the Kansas City Chiefs? That if you like the Eagles, now you're trying to find out, am I doing the right thing? Am I finding something that I have overlooked? And clearly in that last 8 minutes, I'd like to know what that would have been that we have missed where we think the Chiefs have an advantage. Because I don't see it. You've just gone through it. And so it is a very logical and a very thorough analysis of what's going to happen, as opposed to, I like this quarterback, I like this defensive line, I think this is the most you have to go through the elements. The only thing that it really, and this is gambling, the only thing that can happen is either one, an injury, which changes the trajectory of whatever you've capped, or just the craziness and the volatility of sports in a one-off big game, which is special teams, block punt, a run back, those kinds of things. Yeah, that can break it. And has it happened? Yeah, sure, it's happened. It has happened. But for the most part, you're looking at the most logical way to break down a game. So therefore, I have justified the money I'm going to lay down, and that's what just happened in the last 8 minutes. So that's why you listen to a guy like Jimmy the Bag. That was outstanding. Outstanding.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I wish I could come up here and give you 8 or 9 props, but I don't think I do really. It's always going to come down with me to succeeding. I know it's supposed to be fun, but the most important part of this is winning. And I'm not going to sit here and give you player props when I know the books make so much money off them and they laugh every player prop that's bet. Every first touchdown of the game, they point and laugh at the person making it. I want us to win, and I want us to win not just on Sunday, but I want us to win long-term for the foreseeable future, year after year. And that 11.05% ROI in NFL this year gives me so much confidence to say, I don't care. This is no frills. I'm giving you the winner at a cheap price. I'm not going to show you how good these peaches look at $6.99 a pound. I just want to feed the family. And that's what we're going to do here. And we're not going to bet out of our comfort zone. This isn't a 10-unit bet. This is just another day where we need to make smart decisions and make money.
Fantastic stuff. Best in the business. Thanks so much, Jimmy. Have yourself a great weekend. And as you like to say, I believe, what do you say to the people?
Get that cash.